as you know, we had a good overview of SAP, something on the technology side, something on the S/4HANA side, understanding HANA, understanding some of the terms that we will come across in SAP environment. Of course, there can be a lot of different terms, but considering the time constant, I have picked up those terms which are really important to understand. Let's move to the data structure, where I will talk about the enterprise structure, configuration, master data and transaction, why it is so important. So you must have come across, people saying, SAP has failed. In one company they had implemented, then they implemented another ERP in place of SAP. Certain ERP are better than SAP. This is all fine because ultimately it's the design that is very important. How an application is designed and what is the requirement of the business and whether your application is meeting that requirement or not. How is SAP designed? If you have to understand that, then keep in mind the Lego toys, right? So Lego building blocks, which we have played in our childhood days, and we could build different kind of houses or any other object, but you can build a variety of it using the same set of blocks. So SAP also in a way has similar kind of design. I won't say that there are pieces scattered all over you will see in SAP. No, it is not. But yeah, there are like blocks that you have to put together and you have to build a system. And those blocks, you can call it like an enterprise structure, configuration, master data, modules, transactions. Then there is security in SAP, which defines roles. And then ABAP and other tools, that helps to develop different kind of applications. So I'm calling this as a data structure just to help you understand this. And how will it help us in designing it? Now, when I say enterprise structure, it does not mean that it is just one block. There are so many pieces in that enterprise structure. Every company is designed differently. And how can one SAP cater to almost all the companies across all the industries, using the same application, which is ECC or S/4HANA, without making any major change? You can actually cater. So how is it that possible? So that has been made possible because behind the scene it is designed like a block structure. You can connect those blocks and you can build a system which is customized without bringing about any change, without even programming it, that you can do it. So let us understand the enterprise structure. All of you know an organization chart. How does it look like? There is a hierarchy. There are boxes. So there are multiple boxes below one box. That forms an hierarchy. And enterprise structure is quite similar to it. In any organization you go, there is a structure. You cannot implement SAP just in any organization. You need to have done maybe a re-engineering of the organization, design the organization, design processes, and then SAP comes in to really automate it. So, which is where enterprise structure sets in. The company should have very well defined enterprise structure, which then is mapped into SAP. So, what it can be an enterprise structure look like? So, for example, if you've got 5 plants and 3 company codes, which plant is mapped to which company code? Okay, and if you've got this 3 company code, how is this reporting happens? How does the controlling works with these 3 companies? Is it that 2 company controlling is centralized, but 1 company is different? Okay, so that will how the structure will be, right? And how does then the income statement is generated? Is it generated by each and every company, or is it the management would like to see income statement for all the companies together? Okay, so all that will go into defining an enterprise structure. Every transaction carried out by the enterprise will have a reference to at least one enterprise structure data element in SAP. This enterprise structure does not change so often because the basic structure that was built to deliver product or services to the customer don't change, every day. It takes some time to build. It takes some, and it is retained over a period of time. So enterprise structure is has a permanence and is retained over a period of time. If you are changing enterprise structure, there's a lot of activity to be done in SAP because it is a back-end thing that a consultant has to do. So just an example to help you understand how much control can SAP bring in using enterprise structure. So let us say that IDS is a holding company that has operations in Europe, North America, Asia Pacific, Latin America, and all these countries. And Europe, let's say it has got France and Germany and Belgium and all these countries. And then it has got various products like pumps, paints, pharmaceuticals, and then various departments. And then plant in Frankfurt, Berlin, Hamburg, and they are denoted by this number. Now, in one of this plant, there is a small storage location where you have a small machinery part lying, and that part is getting scrapped. The moment it is scrapped, it immediately on a real-time basis, it could be tracked at the IDS level. Okay. That's what enterprise structure and integration does, and this is phenomenal. That's the power of SAP that I think very few ERP can bring to the table. It is definitely meant for large size companies. I never recommend a 200 crore, 300 crore company to go for SAP, but a large size enterprise really need this kind of a control. Anything moving around, it should get posted to finance, and it should get reflected in your P&L and income statement, right? Or on your balance sheet, and that should happen real time, immediately the moment that movement happens. And that's what enterprise structure will enable you to do, because everything is so well structured. Now, configuration and enterprise structure are not different. In fact, enterprise structure is part of configuration, but I have tried to put it differently because I want you to understand it separately. Then only you can appreciate the enterprise structure. So what is configuration? Like, settings. Any software has a setting, right? But SAP being a very complex kind of ERP, there are different skills needed. You have separate consultants by different modules who work in a separate area within SAP called IMG or implementation guide. And that's configuration. They will set up the company code, they'll set up plant, they'll set up various processes. And then at the end, either through automatic means or through manual means, transaction gets posted into SAP. So examples, set up a company, plant, warehouse, distribution channel, define a business process for export, which will be different than import, right? And which will be different than production, correct? So within production also, you may have many different kind of processes depending upon the kind of production that you are doing. All that is done by configuration. There is a lot of work in configuration, but way less work when you actually have to go and do an entry. Setting up screen, making certain field mandatory is configuration. If you want to set certain rules for determining business area based on combination of certain objects, and you want to frame a rule, then again, for setting up those rules, configuration is needed. So it's a huge work, and that's what the SAP consulting profession is all about, building this enterprise structure and configuration. Master data is very similar to what all of you know about it, right? There are like customer master, vendor master, metal master, BOM, routing, cost center, general ledger. So these are all master, and they are also there in SAP. And they are very well placed, very well integrated with transaction and the enterprise structure. And there are many ways you can create it. You can create it centrally. You can create it in different company. You can have a decentralized organization and can create the master data. It is valid for all applications. It remains constant over time, but we need to update it on regular basis. For example, vendor is a type of master data that is used for creating purchase orders or contracts. Transaction data are entered through SAP transaction codes. I'll show you what does T code look like, either manually or automatically. When I say automatically, for example, it's an EDI transaction, then of course transaction can flow into SAP directly. and no one needs to enter that invoice. Okay, so that's an automatic transaction. Or your bank data can flow in, your foreign exchange rates can flow in through EDI or through other interfaces. Each instance of a transaction data will be different from another in some way or the other. SAP records each and every transaction in a document, and once you have recorded it, it can't be deleted. You can only reverse it. There are only few fields that you can change. Otherwise, most of the field is uneditable, and that's a very strong control in at the transaction level. So every transaction will refer to one enterprise structure, maybe a company code, for example, or a plant, and one or more data element like customer or vendor. So transactions are represented by a document. As I said, these documents can't be deleted in SAP. Invoice posting for goods received from a supplier or payment received from a customer are examples, and all of you are very experienced enough to know this part very well. So we have covered